Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of the Point Podcast. And on this episode, we are going to finish the greatest story ever told, the Easter story. Now, due to time, I'm just going to pick up right where we left off last week. Here we go. It is now Friday, and Jesus died around 3:30ish, and he had to be put into the tomb before 6 o'clock. Now, here's a picture of what we would call the garden tomb. And there's some debate over which one of the locations the tomb actually was. And this is what I say when I go to Israel, and I'll say it right now. It's not about the place, it's about what took place. So I truly do believe that it would have had a feel like this, what we call the garden tomb. And then inside the city of Jerusalem, you have what is called the Holy Sepulchre. And this is inside these doors. And I've been to Israel 12 times, and I've only got inside of here twice. It's because the lines are so long. And for me, again, it's not about the place, it's what took place. So I have this question a lot. Well, if Jesus died around 3:30 and they had to get him in the tomb by 6 on Friday, how was it 3 days? Okay, you're trying to read the Bible through the eyes of a 21st century American. In their culture, if he was in the tomb before 6 p.m. on Friday, that counted as a day. He was in there all day Sunday, or all day Saturday. And then if you were in the tomb before daylight on Sunday, that considered a day. So he's in there Friday evening, a day, Saturday, a day, and Sunday morning, a day. There's the 3 days. Let's pick up our story in Matthew 28. The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember how that impostor said, while he was still alive, after 3 days I will rise." A little something there. Why 3 days? If you remember, Lazarus was left in the tomb for over 3 days. Why? In their culture, they had a tradition that the spirit hovered around for 3 days. But after the third day, the spirit would leave. And so now, Jesus, for 3 days, therefore order the tomb to be made secure until the third day, lest his disciples go and steal him away and tell the people, "He is risen from the dead," and the last fraud will be worse than the first. And Pilate said to them, "You have a guard of soldiers. Go make it as secure as you can." So they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone and setting a guard. Now, what happened to Jesus once he was placed in the tomb? All right. Great question. Number one, his physical body remained in the tomb 3 days. Number two, his spirit was very busy. Now, we know this from a couple different references. Ephesians 4 says this. Therefore it says, when he ascended on high, he led a host of captives, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and he gave gifts to men, and saying he ascended. What does it mean? But that he also descended into the lower regions of the earth. He who descended is the one who ascended for above all the heavens, that he might fill all things. So what does this mean? Well, from Luke 16, we know that he descended into what is called paradise, Abraham's bosom. If you remember, the thief on the cross said, "Hey, I want to be with you." And Jesus said, "I'll see you in heaven today." No, he didn't say that. He said, "I'll see you in paradise today." 1 Peter says this, "For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit, in which he went and proclaimed to the spirits in prison, because they formerly did not obey." So what this means is the body stayed in the tomb, but yet his spirit went down into Abraham's bosom. It spoke to those in Hades. He gathered those that were in paradise, and he took them with him. Now, Jesus made several appearances after his resurrection. Number one, Jesus appears to Mary Magdalene. If you remember the story, Mary went to the tomb looking for Jesus. She would have came to the tomb and would have looked in and saw that there was no body. Now here's the cool thing. As you go into the tomb, you would have looked to the right, and this is where the body of the person would have been. To the left would have been where they had these ossuary boxes, and once a person had been here for so long, they would then take the bones, put them into that box, And the bones would stay on that box, and that would allow for another body to be placed in here. Now, obviously, we know that Jesus' tomb was different because no body had ever been placed in there. Mary has come in, she's looked in, looked to the right, and there was no body. John 19 says it like this. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. She looked in, and the body wasn't there. And oh no, where's the body? And as she wept, she stooped to look into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had lain. I just showed you that. One at the head and one at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And she said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." Having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing, but she didn't know that it was Jesus. All right, remember, we now have seen that Jesus' body was in the tomb for 3 days. His spirit's been busy. Sunday morning, Jesus' spirit and body came back together. And now he is standing there in the flesh. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me, where have you laid him? And I will take him away." And Jesus said to her, "Mary." She instantly recognized that voice. And she turned and said to him in Aramaic, "Rabboni," teacher, teacher. Now you got to love what Jesus says. And Jesus said to her, "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father." Now remember, his body was in the tomb. Oh, but his spirit was busy. The two have been reunited. And now he says, "Don't touch me, because I'm about to go home. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." And Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I've seen the Lord," and that he had said these things to her. And then Jesus, now remember, he had those from Abraham's bosom, paradise. He took those and he ascended to the Father. Now, the story continues in Luke, and it's early Easter Sunday morning. He's appeared to Mary. The story continues. That very day, Sunday, Resurrection Day, two of them were going to a village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they were talking with each other about all these things that had happened. Now, here's a map of Jerusalem to Emmaus. And Jerusalem had been here, and you had that 7-mile walk. So they've left, and they're making their way up. Now, back to the verses. To each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing together, Jesus himself drew near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing them. So we see, number 2, that Jesus is now appeared, and the Bible only gives us the name of one, Cleopas, and another man. And so Jesus and these two men are walking these 7 miles, and Jesus literally takes them through the Old Testament workshop that I do. He began to talk to them like, "Have you not heard what's going on?" And Jesus knew. "Well, Jesus, the Messiah." And Jesus walks them through, and they don't even realize that they're with Jesus. Pick up the story. They talked Jesus into having a meal with them at their house. When he was at the table with them, he took the bread and blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them. And their eyes were opened. And they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They literally went, "It was him! All this time! We walked 7 miles. We were sitting down to eat, and it was him!" Luke 24, verse 33. And they rose that same hour and returned to Jerusalem. They walked that 7 miles back. You know, we complain having to walk 7 minutes to get into the church. They walked the 7 miles back, and they found the 11. Okay, why are there only 11 disciples? Remember, Judas has hung himself. And those who were gathered together, saying, "The Lord is risen indeed and has appeared to Simon." And catch this, and has appeared to Simon. Then they told what had happened on the road. So we know that number 3, Jesus appeared to Simon. Now, I believe that was literally just for a brief moment before Jesus appeared to the rest of them. 1 Corinthians 15 says it this way: that he was buried, that he was raised on the 3rd day in accordance with the scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, which is Peter, then to the 12. So we know that he came, he appeared, and then he appeared to number 4, the disciples. To the disciples. Now remember, it says 10 disciples. Judas is gone, and Thomas isn't there. Read this with me. As they were talking about these things, Jesus himself stood among them and said, "Peace to you." Okay, that was his saying. I start most videos, "Hey guys." Okay, he kept, "Peace to you." As soon as he said, "Peace to you," they knew who it was. But they were startled and frightened and thought they saw a spirit. "You're dead. You were crucified." And he said to them, "Why are you troubled?" If you remember, I told you there were 3 different times that Jesus said, "Guys, we're going to Jerusalem. I'm going to be crucified." They should have known exactly what was going to happen. "And why do you doubts arise in your hearts? See my hands, my feet. See, it's me. Touch me and see. For a spirit does not have flesh and bones as you see that I have. It's me. Touch me." Guys, it's Jesus, just as I told you. Now, these 4 appearances took place on Sunday, the day Jesus arose from the dead. So all of this is going on that very morning that Jesus arose. It's late Sunday evening. We've made our way towards the night. And we don't see Jesus again until day 8. Now, what was Jesus doing during all those days? Well, John tells us very clearly that if he wrote down everything Jesus had done, that even the books couldn't hold it all. He's out doing all of those things. He's out again proving he was the Messiah. He's showing them, "It's me." John 21:25. Now, there are also many other things that Jesus did. Were every one of them to be written? I suppose that the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. That's what Jesus was doing during those days. Now, Jesus appears now to the 11 disciples. Remember, Judas has hung himself. So here we see John chapter 20. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him. Now, that takes us back to, there were the 10 disciples, and then you had Cleopas and the other man. That's where you had the 12. This time, we have the 10 disciples themselves, minus Thomas. So the other disciples told him, "We've seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger in the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe." And that's where we get doubting Thomas. 8 days later, his disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with them. And although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." That was his thing. They knew instantly that was Jesus. Then he said to Thomas, "Now how would you like to be Thomas?" Jesus comes walking in, and he comes walking straight to you. Jesus knew what he had said. Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe." And Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you've seen me?" This is huge. "Blessed are those who have not seen and have yet believed." I wasn't there. I didn't see. Oh, but how I believe. And here's the truth, and I say it all the time. What you think about Jesus will dictate how you live your life. Thomas didn't believe. But after this, I'll bet it began to change the way he lived his life. Takes us to number 6. Peter and the other 6 disciples. Now, God's allowed me to go to Israel 12 times. I've gone to Africa 13 times. I've been to Ireland. I've been on the 3 missionary trips of Paul twice. I've been on mission trips, various places outside the United States. God has allowed me to travel a good bit. But probably one of the most impactful, if not the most impactful events of my life took place right here. And this is called Peter's primacy. Over here, warm water comes in. And so because of where the warm water came in, we know that this is where the disciples fished a lot. And it was here that Peter and some other disciples were fishing, and they saw Jesus on the bank. This is a church that was built over a stone, an area where this, Peter's reinstatement, took place. John 21:17-19 says it this way. They saw Jesus fishing. Peter jumped out of the boat and swam to the bank. That was in the previous verses. Why? Why did he just wait? Because Peter hasn't had a chance to speak to Jesus. Jesus appeared to him quickly once. We saw that. but they haven't spoke. And Peter hasn't had a chance to say, I'm sorry. I told you I'd die for you, and then I denied you 3 times. And I just want to tell you I'm sorry. He's not had a chance. Peter gets on the shore. The other disciples show up. Jesus has a fire. And they got this meal. There's this awkward silence. And Peter's grieved because he said to him the 3rd time, do you love me? Now remember, there's 3 words in the Greek for love. You have agape, which is unconditional love. You have phileo, which is brotherly love. And there's eros, which is sexual love. And Jesus would say to him, Peter, do you agape me? Do you love me unconditionally? I phileo you. Do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. And then Jesus said, well, feed my sheep. Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were young, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will dress you and carry you where you do not want to go. And Peter stopped phileo, loving Jesus, and agape. He began to love him unconditionally. It was at that very place that I surrendered everything in my life and said, Jesus, I'm yours. I will never betray you. I will never deny you. I just want to change the world for you. There's got to come a time in our lives when we're willing not to phileo, brotherly love Jesus, but we must agape, unconditionally love Jesus. Then he said to show by what kind of death he was to glorify God. And after saying this, he said to him, follow me. Let's keep going. This is Matthew 28. This is further down, probably around that day 30 of the 40 days. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. And when they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. And we've talked about this before. And it says they worshiped him. Why did they worship him? Well, they'd seen all the miracles. They'd heard the teachings. They see him alive. But some doubted. Why? Because he still hasn't gotten Rome off their back. Here's a picture of Mount Arbel, where I believe this would have taken place. I took this picture from the Sea of Galilee right here, and they would have met with Jesus up here. And it's here that we get what is called the Great Commission. Jesus is with the 11 disciples. Remember, Judas is dead. And he says this to them after they had worshiped, but some doubted. Matthew 28. And Jesus came and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach them to observe all that I've commanded you. And behold, I'm with you always to the end of the age. Go make disciples. At this point, Jesus and the disciples make their way back to the city of Jerusalem, and we find them on the 40th day. Number 8, the 11 disciples, as they watch Jesus ascend to the Father. Luke 24 puts it this way. And he led them out as far as Bethany, and lifting up his hands, he blessed them. While he blessed them, he parted from them and was carried up into heaven. And they worshiped him and returned to Jerusalem with great joy and were continually in the temple blessing God. They just wanted to continue to worship. But I love the way the book of Acts gives us the same story with just a little bit of a description added to it. Acts 1 says this. So when they had come together, they've come together from the Sea of Galilee area. It's the 40th day. They're in the Mount of Olives. Will you this time restore the kingdom of Israel? You going to get Rome off our back? He said to them, it's not for you to know the times or seasons that the Father has fixed by his own authority. Don't worry about it. My dad's got this, okay? But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you'll be my witnesses. Again, go make disciples. Go be my witness in Jerusalem and in Judea, Samaria, and to the outer ends of the earth. Go change the world. And when he said these things, as they were looking on, he was lifted up on a cloud and took them out of their sight. Well, you know the story. 10 days later, Acts 2, the Holy Spirit did come down and was called Pentecost. And the disciples literally went out and changed the world. It's the same Holy Spirit that we have today. And we should take it with a desire to go and change the world. Now, Christ does appear again, but now it's kind of outside the greatest story ever told. We see it in Acts 9. He appears to Saul on the road to Damascus, where we see later that Saul becomes the greatest missionary when he becomes Paul. But then we also see in Revelation 4, he appears to John. And this is where he writes the book of Revelation. Through the last few episodes of The Point, we've talked about the greatest story that was ever written. And that's the story of Jesus' death, crucifixion, tomb, and resurrection. And if we've received the Holy Spirit, then let's go and change the world. And that's the point to all of this. Next week, I'm going to start a brand new series. What can we learn from the kings? Since January of 2025 till now, April, I have walked through every single king for the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom and have written out a detailed description of who they are, what they did, and what we can learn from them. Hope you'll tune in. Until then.